Trusted equipment, backed by service. Safer patient outcomes begin with the right equipment and the right partner behind it. That's why we created the MVP program, our commitment to being your most valuable partner in every procedure. When you start using IMP patient protective pads or SteriBump, our sterile surgical bump, you unlock more than just great products. You gain discounted repairs to keep costs down, free loaner equipment to keep you up and running, product discounts to maximize your investment, a 1-year new product warranty, and the exceptional service and support you've come to rely on, delivered by a team that's with you every step of the way. It's more than just a service plan. It's our commitment to stand behind you with best-in-class support, because reliable equipment means safer outcomes for your patients. That's the MVP standard. It's service when you need it, support that's seamless, and protection that's built in so you can focus on what matters most, patient safety. Talk to your IMP representative or visit impmedical.com/MVP to become an MVP today. Because when you invest in IMP, we invest in you.
Family, it's 8 o'clock. You know what that means. It's time to talk. Big shout out to IMP. I know y'all saw that commercial, right? First thing I thought of when I saw the SteriBump was no more sterilizing roll towels. Amazing. We have these products on the market. IMP is now also offering you that MVP program. If you do not know what that is, definitely contact your local rep and make sure that you get up to date on what that MV program could bring to your department. IMP. Family, it is another week and we are here. I just like to first just reflect on the journey so far. The CEUs have been a big added value, and I appreciate everybody that's been out there taking the test. And, I've heard, the different things about the test, but again, it adds that value, right? Secondly, spreading the word. I've had new people coming onto the platform. I've had several different people reach out to me on LinkedIn about how to, get the CEUs and how to do, just be a part of the platform. And again, that's thanks to all of you for being here. And again, heartfelt thanks to that. Learn to listen so others are willing to talk. Definitely still out and available, as well as Time to Talk, what they didn't tell me. So both books are still available, but again, the success of those definitely come from all of you. We had the blame game. Did you see that? Blame versus let's get to the real solutions. That was an amazing show. And it led me to this show, which is, hey, the gloves are on, the mic is on, communicating under pressure in SPD. What does that look like? That's what I'm talking about today, communicating under pressure. In sterile processing, seconds actually matter, right? Accuracy is non-negotiable. We don't have a choice but to get things right. And then the pressure can be overwhelming for people who have not been in that situation before, even leaders. Pressure can be overwhelming if you're facing it at every single corner of your day in your department. But it's in those moments when the OR is waiting, when the phones won't stop ringing, when the tray is missing that crucial instrument, that our communication skills can make the difference between chaos and clarity, frustration and teamwork, or even patient safety and risk. How do we communicate when all eyes are on us and we're facing those moments? That's what we're going to explore today. We're going to talk about, how your voice under pressure matters, the strategies that can keep communication in those high stakes situations, and what it really takes to support one another when the tensions run high. So in this episode, I decided that we were going to get some people. Again, I'm bringing faces that you haven't seen on the platform a lot of times, and new voices that lead credibility to what we're doing here in the industry. So I went out and I wanted to check with two good friends of mine that, I've seen them grow in this business, and I also seen how they run their ship. And I wanted to take their take on what it takes to communicate under pressure so that you can get a feel for what that's like in those moments. So what I did was I invited Miss Rebecca Lauber and Miss Stacey Law to the platform so we can get their take on communication under pressure. So please welcome, without further ado, Miss Rebecca Lauber and Stacey Law to the platform. Big round of applause, everybody. Welcome, ladies. Welcome. It's time to talk. Y'all made it to the platform. I appreciate y'all both for being here today, and the family is here, and we're ready to hear what y'all got to say. But before we do that, Rebecca, for those that don't know you, can you introduce yourself to the platform, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Lauber. I am the regional trainer and educator for 12 hospitals in New York City. And I'm just happy to be here with y'all today.
Stacey, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure can. My name is Stacey Law. I'm the director of Sterile Processing located in Boston, Massachusetts.
When I again, welcome, and I thank y'all for being here. Sharon says, let's go. See, everybody's excited. The comments are already starting. We're going to start off with a bang. When we talk communication, and Stacey, being the director, I know you get it differently. Rebecca, you're going to 12 hospitals across the state. How important is that communication when it comes to just in general communication? We ain't got to under pressure yet, but just your general communication. How important is that to you? Rebecca, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So to me, like communication, a lot of people just think it's just this one-way thing. Like, hey, I'm just communicating. I'm just telling you something. And I just need you to hear and listen. But it's really about creating a flow of trust. So at that core of that trust and that flow is going to be starting with listening. So we all know that there's a difference between hearing and listening. And if we're not listening well, people will stop talking. And so to me, that's what communication is. It means that things get shared that's needed, that, we own the processes, and that teammates feel that they can raise concerns.
I.e., I'm plugging, learn to listen so others are willing to talk. So she said every word in the book title. I got to bring it
up. Unintentional, y'all.
Stacey, same question, Stacey.
I agree with Rebecca where you have to listen before you communicate. If you don't listen, you don't gather the information. But communication impacts several levels. You could build relationships with your staff. You could build relationships with surgeons. You can communicate where it would impact a patient. So there's different levels of communication. And I don't think we have a true understanding in our field of how it impacts at different levels.
So that's now, Ms. Green Golden, welcome. She says hello to everybody. So that's where we lead this. That's where we lead into that. So we all agree that communication is two ways. You have to listen before you get people speaking. They definitely are listening to understand, not listening just to respond, right? So now we add the added wrinkle of under pressure, hectic moments, chaos. As I said in the introduction, what happens when the phone won't stop ringing and you have people calling and asking for 19 different things, or the OR is waiting on a critical tray that is not even, it's in decon, not even in the sterilizer, it's in decon. And we know how those tensions run high. So in those moments when a critical tray, let's start there. When a critical tray is missing or delayed, how can the sterile processing professional from tech to leadership balance urgency with clarity to avoid miscommunication and escalation? And we all know what the escalation part is. We all know what that happens in that moment. Start with you, Stacey. How can we balance that clarity between those two things?
I think it's important where we train our staff to answer the questions, but also deliver honest communication. If the tray is going to be 35 minutes till the sterilization process is done. You have to communicate with with the surgeon. Just don't leave them hanging, because more than likely they can hold off until it's ready. But if they don't know, it causes chaos. And then obviously they're going to call the higher ups and it's going to be escalated immediately. But I think open and honest communication is key, whether it's good or bad.
So even when they're calling back every 5 minutes, man, we need that tray now. The patient's on the table. The patient's on the table. Yeah, we've all heard that one, right? Patient's on the table. I need that tray right now. And they don't get the answer they want. The voice kind of goes up. The attitude kind of starts. So what do you do in those moments? That's where we're trying to get to. Sharon says communication, again, must be honest and timely and continuous. I think one of those big pieces that people always miss is that you can give that first update, but if you don't continuously update on the process, people feel like you said, people feel like you left them hanging, and then it gets out of hand at that point. Rebecca, across 12 systems, you have to educate people on this type of stuff. So across all of these, what do you feel like how do we balance that urgency?
So I've learned a lot in this balancing act of 12 hospitals and being in a new role, because originally I'm an operations person. I'm used to managing a department. Now I'm educating a group of people. And everything Stacey said is exactly what I would say. But now I have that layer of, now I need my staff to be on board to be able to do this. So to me, as an educator, I believe that we need to train the staff to use the right language, as Stacey says, but they need to be confident in saying it and stop feeling like they're apologizing for something and start feeling like they're leading to a solution. And then with that, they're going to be able, and you might hear this a lot throughout the night from me, they're going to be able to own what they're speaking on. And that's going to shift from trust and reinforce our role as SPD as being a partner for the patient. Because oftentimes I think what happens is we feel like we're this backroom service, that we're not connected to the patient, but everything we do is connected to the patient.
That's important to understand as well. I saw Vanessa pop in. I want to make sure I acknowledge people that are popping in the room. Sharon says people rarely consider pitch, pace, and positioning. This is a key part of the language mastery. Mm-hmm. Again, it's how you give that response, right? Because if I have that elevated tone, then you're going to automatically go elevated tone, right? And it just spirals from there, right? But we're saying this as experienced, seasoned leaders. Mm-hmm. What about that new tech that answers the phone, who doesn't have that yet or doesn't know that piece of it yet? What does that person do?
Yeah. So in my field, I told them when they answer the phone, gather as much information as they can and write it down and answer. I will look into this for you, and for them to approach the appropriate chain of commands where we could help them, and then we can relay the message. Because like Rebecca said, you have to have that confidence, at least bringing in that information. And then they have to understand the escalation of pathway where, we're there to support them and we can help them along the way. Even if they don't know it, they can say, hey, I will look into this. I'll get it right back to you. And then we'll follow through with the communication after that.
And that's what Ms. Green Golden just said, yes, empower the team to give facts. None of that we think.
Correct. She's absolutely right.
That's the key phrase that sets them off in the or. But I think that'll be ready in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They give the we thinks. They got to be the facts, because they will hold you to it. And then when it's not, again, that goes that escalation, right? We're going to a different phase of the game at that point. But
on the other end, they love facts to give, whether it's delayed or not. They like the facts coming from us with that confidence, saying, hey, you have 23 minutes till the sterilizer finishes. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to say, well, it'll be done in a little bit. They need to hear specifications.
So I'm gonna throw a wrinkle in there, right? So you've told that to the nurse who called down, the tech, whoever calls down, you've given that piece of information, right? And then immediately after that, you get a phone call that says, the doctor wants to see you in the room right now.
Yep.
We've had that phone call too, right? So when you
Mhm.
get in the room, he wants to know, why isn't it ready? Why is it still in decon? Why is it just not going in the sterilizer? And his tone is already elevated. How do you handle those pressure situations?
I teach people to approach the situation not just with clarity but with calm. So never change how you are just because of how someone is coming at you. Um, and I know that these situations can feel overwhelming. They're overwhelming, especially if you're that new tech. Hey, sometimes I've had surgeons say, this tray has this person's name on them, and it could be a new hire too.
Right.
Bring them to this room.
I've seen that.
Yeah, but it's all in how you take it. And honestly, if I go to the room, I bring my leader with me, so we're able to handle the situation together.
And that's what great Ms. Gergola again says, the manager, take the answer to the doctor yourself. Like, you got the answer, you take it. I mean, taking that other person, and I've heard that several times now over the last couple of shows, that we do take the second person so that they can see how to handle this process or how you would handle the process. And I think that's a good teaching mechanism, but not taking the person so the doctor can yell at them and stuff like that. That's not what that is intended to be. And like she said, they got to understand it's not personal. Hey, this is what happened. This is how we're resolving it. And this is when you can get the tray, 23 minutes, not a little bit, like Stacey said, like just making sure everybody's on that same page.
Well, can I add a little nugget to so we were talking about how, like, what if it's a new hire, or let's say a new tech who answers the phone and might be a little bit unsure. So previously, and this might not work for everybody, but once somebody gets acclimated in the jobs to now they're where they're answering the phone, or maybe someone just feels like, oh, I don't want this phone ringing, let me answer. I always had a template. I had a template ready for them to understand exactly how they're going to speak. And yes, there could be some curveballs on the phone, but that's when you add other people in, your leads, your coordinators, people who are used to these conversations, so we can help. But in order for us to get better in how we speak and understand what's going on in our job, we have to practice. So not everything's always going to be perfect, but practice. It's not about being perfect. It's about, being engaged in the job.
You're trying to steal one of my questions. We're not going to talk about the practice. We're going to get there. 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 Not yet. Not yet. But again, those are all very good points. And again, I think that, as you said, if it starts getting to that level where the person is feeling uncomfortable or the conversation is steadily escalating, grabbing your lead, grabbing the supervisor, manager, director, whatever you need, involving that other person that can handle that situation, getting them involved. I think that is the perfect way to do that. And I do have more, Rebecca, trying to steal the thunder, but we're going to talk about a little bit more of that right after this commercial. And we're back, everybody. We're here with Rebecca and Stacey, and we're talking communicating under pressure. What we learned is that, hey, you got to have the calm. You got to teach people and try to work them through these scenarios so that it doesn't come off to be too overwhelming in those situations. That leads me to this next nugget of questions. What communication strategies are most effective when pressure leads to finger pointing before the operating room and sterile processing teams? Instead of it being, let's get to a solution, there's always the blame game and finger pointing, like we talked about last week. What kind of effective communication can you put in place so it doesn't lead to that?
I always try to get myself involved before it does happen and communicate with the OR staff, obviously, that had the issue where they want to escalate it and say, hey, why don't we come up with a resolution on our own and see how this works? And just having that relationship building and that open communication, usually it goes far. You have your people that will probably always escalate regardless of what you do. But you still have to, like Rebecca said, remain in that professional communication field to communicate with them, so that they know that you're listening.
I think that is one of those big ones where we talk about it every time we hear somebody say something, building that relationship, right? Having that relationship with the OR can go a long way if they're on the same page.
Right.
That part, right? So that is one of those. You're right. You got to have that consistent and constant communication so that everything seems like a team. Y'all working like a team, so that hopefully there's no finger pointing, and hopefully there's none of that happening. But again, we know, like you said, there's always that one that's gonna escalate it just because, like, we fixed it. I got you the new tray, no delay, and hey, I'm still sending that email immediately. So you're still gonna have those type of people. Sharon says, "Why is communication so hard? Such a constant challenge in every industry."
Because, like you say, Kenneth, not everybody wants to listen before they communicate.
That is true. I mean, I think that's the biggest piece of a lot of this. Comes down to that one thing.
Right.
I heard you. Let me do my research. Let me find out what happened. But here's the tray. And that's what we talked about last week. Why are we trying to fix it in that moment? Why are you screaming and yelling about something that's happened? How do I help you, sir? How do I help you, man? When you get to the OR, it's about fixing the issue. There's a patient on the table. I think a lot of times they forget that piece. And I'm never going to stand there and argue with you while you're doing surgery. That's not even, copacetic. We don't have to.
Right.
Doctors that want to do that. And you're like, sir, I just need to get you the tray you need. I just need to get you the tray. This Golden says, always investigate and know truthfully what happened before you even go on the defense.
Exactly.
There you go, right? Angela says, in the moment, we bring them what we can right now. We will circle back and follow up after we investigate. Those are those strategies that we're trying to make it happen, right? Vanessa says,
you don't always have what you need at the moment. So what do you do at that point?
Ooh, okay. See? We're starting stuff. I like it. Vanessa says sometimes it's an uphill battle against a negative culture. Oh, there goes that word that people talk about, the culture. But the remaining cool and being an example helps change the tone sometimes. And that does true. Like, they can't yell. I mean, they can yell by themselves, but you're yelling and you're just in that calm tone, as we talked about, right? You're in that calm tone and you're just trying to help the situation. Sometimes it does de-escalate, but not all the time.
Well, it's just shifting from who's at fault to what's the fix or what's the solution, so we can change the whole tone and redirect back to what that immediate need is.
And I think
they may be looking for something very specific and very adamant of what they need. But I would say there's an 80% chance of, if you just ask certain questions about what can we use in the meantime or improvise to get you to that point, they will help you come up with a solution. I don't think we always give them the chance to help with that. So there's been several times where I've reached out to the surgeons and they're like, oh yeah, I don't even want to use that. I want to use this. Problem solved. But if I didn't communicate that, they would have never known, and the room would have already caused the chaos.
Sometimes it's not even
they had to do it.
And I think that's the other piece. Sometimes it's not even you. It's what they thought were in the tray, was supposed to be in the tray, but it's not on the count sheet, so it wasn't supposed to be on the tray. You know what I'm saying? So he's misinformed about what was supposed to be there originally anyway, and you're just like, we just followed the count sheet. But sometimes that's not good enough, because we should have known that he needed that mother-in-law clamp from 2 years ago. We should have known that, You got a bunch of comments from the family. I know the knowledge analysis says, what should those questions look like? Tandria says, fix the problem, then communicate later how not to get back in that same situation. Like what you were saying, Stacey, as far as like, we fix it in that moment, but then you circle back and talk to the doctor, talk to the techs, whoever needs to, then say, what can we do so that we don't have this happen again?
Right.
Angela, same thing, but you actually have to do the follow-up. Like, we can say, again, what's that word we use? Consistent and constant, right? We said we fixed it, but now did you do the follow-up? Did we go back and, hey, so this doesn't happen again. Let's fix this problem. And I think that sometimes we don't always close the loop, even as leaders. A lot of times you don't always close the loop. And then when it happens again, you're like, I thought we fixed this. Yeah, you did in that moment.
Right. What did you do to follow up to see if it was sustained or not?
Right. So with all of that said, and seeing as how it happens the way that it happens. Let me ask this question. How does stress impact listening skills in a sterile processing, and what can leaders do to ensure that the key details are not lost in those high pressure exchanges? Because we do know that stress changes everything, right? Like if you're super stressed and you get that one phone call, all it takes is one phone call, before the day even starts to set everything in motion for that day. So how does stress impact listening skills?
So I personally, I think stress impacts listening skills because when everything feels urgent, we start to only hear that one word, that one thing that was said to us on the phone or in person, or how somebody approached us. And so all we hear is just stat, and we miss the rest of the request. So, and I know in my experience, that's led to wrong trays pulled or missing instruments or delays in cases. So what I like to do is when somebody's speaking to me or communicating with me, I like to, I call it the read back protocol. So I repeat back the requests in full, and then I just confirm what I'm already hearing so that I make sure I didn't miss anything.
I like that. Stacey, stress. What can stress do to that miscommunication? How does stress get you to that miscommunication?
It's probably our number one offender.
Yeah.
Our staff, I don't know about you, Rebecca, they tend to get fixated on that situation. So they will not listen to also what's happening within what follows that stressful situation. And the reason why I love what you say is you have to stop, you have to listen, you have to follow through. We can talk about it after, but you can't let that situation take over the rest of what you're listening to.
I think that's where everybody's coming from right now. Like Tadira says, when you stress, you don't think clearly or listen clearly.
No.
I think that's part of what, I think that's the piece that we miss. Yes, you stop listening, but then again, you stop thinking about, like you said, Rebecca, all I heard was stat and urgent. I didn't hear nothing else past that, which means I'm dropping everything to get you that. And you're like, wait.
I like Angela's message about she writes it down.
Bad,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Even that, yes.
That helps. Notepad. I have a massive list I write down because
I have a few sticky notes just everywhere though. Yes. So that's, it's like chaotic. I can't do the notepad.
I have a stock of sticky notes too. So don't.
As we read, Angela said, I used to keep a notepad in my pocket and write down what they said because stress will make you forget because that urgent. Ms. Golden said, when stressed, you only listen, answer, remember to listen, to hear, and comprehend.
Yes.
Listening to answer versus listening to comprehend. I think that's a chapter in the book, but I ain't gonna keep saying it. I don't know.
I think all of us have read it.
I think that's what I heard. I don't know what I'm saying. But again, I think that statement was very clear. Like you don't think clearly or you don't listen clearly as well. Sharon says stress can make emotions more powerful than the actual subject of the conversation.
Yes.
I've seen that one. Go way because you're like, why are we even mad now? Like you don't even know why. You don't even know why y'all go back and forth.
Yeah, it could be a very small situation, but depending on the emotions, it could become a big deal.
She says emotions go high, reasoning goes low. So, again, that's
absolutely true.
It happens all the time. Tandria says I write a lot of things. So again, doing these little techniques to keep yourself and keep your staff from being in those pressure situations are what's going to help you get to that next level. Because again, we talked about that new hire. We talked about that person that's new to the department that got the phone call that didn't automatically know what they were asking or know why the person was screaming on the other end. What does that person do? And that's where we're teaching them, right? So are these the strategies that we're going to be talking about? Yes, we're going to talk about them after this commercial, though.
In a world overflowing with noise, are you truly being heard? Or better yet, are you truly listening? Kenneth Campbell, industry author and expert in sterilization, is back with his latest book, Learn to Listen, so others are willing to talk. This book isn't just about hearing words. It's about understanding, connecting, and building trust. Whether you're leading a team, navigating relationships, or simply striving for better conversations, these practical strategies will transform the way you communicate. Imagine a world where every conversation leads to deeper connections, resolved conflicts, and greater influence. It's possible when you learn to listen. Are you ready to elevate your communication and create meaningful relationships? Learn to listen, so others are willing to talk. Available now.
Yeah, I've heard of that gentleman, and I've seen billboards and stuff up. I know him. He's doing great things in the industry. Y'all should connect with him. Y'all should connect with him and talk to him. He's very influential. But no, definitely.
So I wanted to jump back to that question that we were just on for a second.
Yes.
I know we're talking a lot about the OR, but a few of us, a few of my friends, you included, who know, currently Joint Commission is at one of my hospitals.
Okay.
And I just want to think of it from a different perspective real quick and bring that in. That especially with staff, leadership, anybody, that the best way to help our staff in these type of high stress situations and communications is to give them the tools and the confidence, not just the correction part of it, which is really key here, because when we start pointing out fault, whether it be we're pointing at the OR, we're pointing at our staff that missed a Joint Commission question or something, we're not really building confidence. We're making them more fearful than and then we start silencing that voice that builds that confidence. So I just felt like it was important to say that we need to switch from what you did wrong to how can I strengthen this skill, whether this be communication like we're talking about, so that you're ready for the next time, the next phone call, the next delay, the next situation.
So that is one of the things that I wanted to touch on as well. When we're talking communication, and this is across the board, when we're talking to communication, we're not just talking inter-departments. We're talking about inside your department as well. It's not just you versus the OR, you versus X-ray, and anybody that sends you stuff. The clinics, all the clinics, you have conflict with them sometimes too, because, hey, I sent you 12 of these, I only got 5 back, and y'all can get that same kind of tension there. So the communication does start within the department, and how your tech and your lead talk to each other, how the lead talks to the supervisor to manager, manager to director. We all know we've been in those pressure situations where you're sitting there and you're like, and I'm gonna get fired today. It's gonna happen today. But you're like, that communication starts everything as well, because that example that they're following is from their own leadership. And if you don't know how to talk to them and communicate with them, how are they going to communicate with somebody else?
And I was going to say, like, we mimic what we see and what we accept. So when these type of things are going on in our departments, as you said, we set that as what is normal for the department, and we don't strive above to be any better than what we consider is normal.
And as leadership, we can't be in the department after one of those phone calls and say the stuff that you really have in your head that shouldn't come out, because staff is watching, right? Yep. So if they feel like you feel that way and they get the phone call, they're going to, like you said, repeat and have that same behavior. So we have to make sure we're monitoring ourselves accordingly as well. Take accountability for your actions while you're in the department and show them the right way. And then go to your office and scream if you need to and be like, let me call them back from my office so we can have this conversation the right way. But again, to something you said earlier that I was going to touch on, I have some other two other things I want to touch on, but I want to go back to that because you said it. Can we get into situations where you practice these scenarios and train that way? Can we do something like that as a strategy to get people ready for these situations? Can you employ an emergency response or a call where you make it up like, hey, the OR needs blah, 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 and y'all practice that way? Is that a thing?
I do it in real time with my staff. If a situation happens, I actually don't put them in the stress of the situation. I have either myself or leadership go to the room and address it first. And then we come back and then we educate, we practice, and then we learn to execute. Yes, as leadership, we still have to support our staff
Right.
and be their guidance, but also show them like what we can do that will support them. Because if we're not going to go to the rooms and deal with the situation, how do we expect them to be in a calm manner to go to the room to address it?
Right. And,
So,
I think that's the one thing that I know that my staff, when I was in the hospital, would tell you is I had them back 110%. I would go up there and get to the bottom of whatever it is. But then when I bring it back, yes, we would do that, dissect it downstairs as to, okay, how did we get here?
and
But
once they earn your trust, or you earn their trust, I should say, because that's how it goes,
right.
they will do anything it takes to come and communicate with you and just want to take that next step to do better.
I think this question goes toward what you were saying, Rebecca. Tandria says, we do our own mock survey in our department every week and get all the staff involved to answer the questions. We don't just do SPD, they also include the OR. So it's like you're going through that inspection all the time. So everybody's inspection ready all the time. So
I love this comment. I love this comment. I can't tell you how much, because this is a part of my role. And this is my favorite part of the role. The thing is, when I do an audit, let's say I'm auditing one of the hospitals. So I do an SPD, an OR, and an endoscopy, because we are over all three, as far as like specific roles. And so when I go into an audit, if the situation at some point starts to become stressful, I stop the audit, because to me, they are not going to be engaged in that audit anymore, and they're going to feel like it's a negative impact on them. And what I want them to feel like is that while I'm doing this audit, and every time we go through the audits, I have pictures by the end of the audit, so I'm able to show them as a team how we can develop. It's never what you're doing wrong. It's never pointing a finger. It's developing them to not just growing their strengths, but it's also building upon what one would say is their challenges. I don't want to call things weaknesses. That's a negative connotation. I want to say challenges that they have so that they feel confident. And so I absolutely love to see that other people do mock surveys within the department. It's such a great tool.
I think back to the comment that Sharon said earlier, even when you're doing it for your own staff, why do we make that hard? Like, I'm helping you. Why is communication so hard? Like, they're getting frustrated and mad about something that I'm telling you. Like, I work here with you, so I'm trying to help you. It's not even like the real survey, but people, like you said, people get still negative and it still goes different ways. And you're like, but we found it, not somebody coming in from the outside. So again, Sharon says, infighting, that's such a distraction. It makes it more about who's right instead of patient safety. Again, that goes back to the finger pointing, right? No, y'all did that. Y'all did that. I think one of my favorite comments I've heard recently is that the instruments are going down the drain in decon. We're losing them. I think that I was like, oh my gosh. But again, nobody wants to get to the cause of let's do the investigation that Sharon Green so golden said. Let's do the full investigation. Come back with honesty. Did y'all, if they're throwing them away in the OR, that's not finger pointing, that's saying you did it. We can prove that it's not down here. So, but they don't want to hear that part. And I think that lends back to the whole communication piece again. Trickle down can trickle up. Learn from your build trust. Miss Randall, yes, that trickle down can trickle up real fast. So again, putting us in positions where we're doing mock surveys, we're doing conversation, we're doing emergency drills, we're doing all of these things to try to make sure that we're all on the same page and we can communicate effectively, because at the end of the day, the end result is still patient safety. We still have a patient to worry about. It's not about the right or wrong in that moment. And Sharon Green Golden says, for patient safety, we teach to be Joint Commission ready every day.
Every day. 100%. Wholeheartedly, I agree with you, Sharon.
So I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to touch Joint Commission today, but Joint Commission all the time, why are we hiding stuff at the last minute? The hallways are super clear all of a sudden. We ain't got nowhere to store something, but Joint Commission time, everything disappears. So that's a different conversation.
Trust and believe. I've seen it all.
That's a different conversation, but that's that part of the communication, right? That's still another part of the communication. If we're supposed to be joint commission ready, anytime somebody walks in the door, then that's still a two-way conversation as to how we should be doing stuff. And again, that can get to be a little frustrating and get a little animated with the tones and stuff. So just making sure that we understand that that tone does stop.
I will say by experience, we just had a walk through about a month ago at our facility, and the first thing she noticed was the response with the tone of voice.
See, and then and they point this stuff out because it does lead to other things, and I think that's the part that people don't realize, or don't want to realize, I should say, that you know that you're going to get back whatever you get out. So if I come at you with that tone and attitude, instinctively you come back with tone and attitude, and you're like, okay,
Right.
this ain't the place for that. Let me calm down. Again, it's how we're training our staff, how we are presenting ourselves in that same moment. So I know we said it a little bit earlier and I talked about it a lot, but I want to go back to something that we were hit on just for a brief moment. When dealing with competing priorities, such as multiple stat requests, how can sterile processing professionals communicate boundaries and expectations without creating conflict? Because everybody's stat is more important than the other person's stat, right? So when you have multiple occasions of those competing priorities, how do we keep the communication there? What's the boundaries? What's the expectations? What do you put on your staff in those communication moments?
For our facility, we're a level 1 trauma, so it does happen. You may have transplants coming in with emergency craniotomies, with a car crash, all of the above. I try to educate the staff on like the importance of whether it's your heart, your brain, but also to communicate with the room. When is your case arriving? When is it going? We have to kind of gather those key facts to push forward.
So to what you just said, knowledge and nonsense said, which stat is the most stat? There we go. The which stat becomes the most stat.
But that's what you discuss with the OR. Like you can't,
Yep.
I feel like a broken bone could be addressed later. Your heart, your brain, those would play more critical because you cannot move on if you don't have them.
Is that a ask them type question where y'all have to get that two-way communication, that you're trying to involve them in your processes downstairs to make sure that
I try to give the staff the background so they develop that confidence, and then they can reach out to the room and the surgeon and say, hey, you know, this case is going on. But like you said, open communication is so critical in our department. I don't think our staff realize like how critical it really is.
Rebecca, is one stat more important than the other stat?
Nope. I think it's about being transparent and the priorities, like in your priorities. So staying transparent, having that communication, as she stated, as Stacey stated, like what we're doing is we're communicating with the operating room, communicating with these key players to see, okay, what's coming next, what's happening, what's coming in, because we all know about traumas. As soon as those come in, like that becomes a stat. But we also might have a patient on the table open at the same time. So then which one is more of our priority? How are we going to decipher that? So it's about structuring a model to be able to understand how to decipher that. So I always like, with the Lean Six Sigma background that I have, I like to think about things as like, okay, this is what I have. These are the branches. If I have this, this is where the branches go.
Right.
With process mapping. So that's how I visualize this.
I agree.
I say go Lean Six. I saw the title, Go Lean Six. But something that Sharon Green Golden said. She said this would stay with the OR to let them make the decision. And it says SPD supplies according to the OR decision as to who is on first. So if we leave it with them to say, I need this tray, need this, that, then there's no miscommunication because they told you what they wanted, right? Or
the OR might not tell you. They usually have an algorithm in place of how it's going to go if the situation happens. They, like you said, Kenneth, they want to point fingers. Well, they didn't have this ready for my case. Well, if they follow their algorithm that's in place with their policy, it says to go this. And like Rebecca said, it's a branch of the direction you need to follow.
Well, I'm also familiar with let's be real. Sometimes there's some silliness that can happen in the OR as well. You know, you got swipe or no swiping kind of situations going on in
Right.
case carts, you know, and then that can cause an uproar and cause some chaos. Are these ORs communicating together? So there's pieces on the SPD level that we're very aware of, but also we need to understand the very real situations and patterns that also happen in the operating room.
Only
100%.
only on Time to Talk, as we're talking about communication, do we get a door to explore. Swipe or no swipe. Oh my goodness, I love it. But again, that is a great point though. When people are taking trays off of other case cards and stuff, again, before getting to the bottom of what happened, it's always we didn't do this or what y'all didn't provide this. So again, back to what Sharon Greengold just said. Why are we got to do an investigation?
Yeah.
We're not just gonna point fingers. We're gonna do the investigation. We know that we put it on there. Everything was scanned. Blah blah blah. So you do the investigation, but go back with facts so that it's not one of those back and forth blame game type situations. She said that's why you go and have in real time tell you who they are. Rolling first. Keep your
Take notes, document.
See, we just talked about that. Then we got sticky notes. We got notepads in your pocket. Everybody's taking notes. I love it. Angela says, emergency carts, are they in place? Restocked in a timely manner. Again, these are things that have to be communicated, and we are making sure that we did our part for it because, again, you have these emergency cards for a reason. Again, making sure that communication is open. Who's checking them? Are the trays still on it? Swipe or no swipe? Are the trays still on them that you put on them to make sure that that cart couldn't be used in a timely fashion? So again, these are all good things that we had to keep in place. Tandrea, I was the only one who said swipe or no swipe.
Hey, twinning over here.
Everybody.
I just have to say, though, Angela's comment, to her point, it's very important that SPD implements audits and rounding into their departments. If you have emergency carts or you have your neuro cart, you have your backup open heart cart, like you have these case carts, audit your carts regularly. I've worked at hospitals that audit them every shift or as they're used. As one is used, they get re-audited and the tray placed back into it. You have regular audits on case carts in general that get sent up to the OR before they're sent up. There's so many tools available to us in SPD. If we just implement it, it would make it so much easier for us.
So that's back to our process and communication, right? If we have that in our processes and we're communicating this information, either like you said, either per shift, weekly, huddle, wherever you need to say and have it identified for people. Because if you're doing those audits and you know the cart's complete and it's locked or whatever y'all do, if you know this for a fact, that's facts, right? So when they come and say this tray wasn't there, no, I got a whole audit trail that we know that it was there. But again, having that stuff when you go to, like Sharon said in one of her comments, is like you have all your stuff, your notes, and you go and you have your facts ready. Because it will come down to the OR said SPD didn't do it. And then Stacey said, they escalate from there. So then we get another whole phone call and another round of people that have nothing to do with anything but sit in the office, call us to their office because of something somebody else said. So again, keeping it so that communication doesn't get blurred lines. And I think we answered so is one stat more important than the other stat? It's going to come down to the competing priorities for the OR, right? So the OR is going to give us the direction on that, but we have to be willing to have that conversation. Sharon Greengold says she had the carts checked on every shift. Again, I think I've seen it every shift as well because of the swipe or no swipe. They checked it in the morning, but by the afternoon, somebody done went in the cart. So making sure that every shift does it. Tandrea says, yes, you have to round every shift. And that goes back to what you said, Rebecca, putting these things in place to try to cover your people, but also create more communication amongst everybody. Because of that, those are good conversations.
The chaos is crazy and busy. So it's okay to create a checklist for your supervisors to round. That's what I had to do because it could become chaotic. So
family, I know we're enjoying all this great feedback, but I want to make sure you have your phones ready. If you're not on your phone, make sure you have your phones ready. So when the QR code comes up, you have the QR code for today's CE, as well as in the comments, you will see the link for the CE credit as well. So definitely get your phones ready. Make sure you get the code. Make sure you go and get your seed for this. We're proud to be able to provide those for you. So we just want to make sure that y'all do take advantage and get those. I do see everybody getting these passing grades and stuff, and I'm kind of happy that we're covering all that information for people. See, y'all doing good. I like y'all. Y'all own it. Now, this last segment here, I want to talk about, again, your staff, because as managers, we're supposed to be there, right? We're supposed to be in that mind state. We're supposed to stay in that calm, as Rebecca said. Stacey said, we're going to go up there and we're going to handle it ourselves. But in what ways can your sterile processing professionals in that department train staff, again, educator, director, how can we train our staff to remain professional, precise, and composed in their communication, even during those high pressure, emotionally charged situations? I know it's easier for us to say it because we've done it and been through it, but again, we're talking about that new hire. We're talking about somebody who's been there less than 6 months, less than a year, who's never encountered it. How can we train them to stay in that professional mind state, even when somebody's yelling at them, even when the screaming is happening? How can we train?
So
it's quiet. I like it. It's quiet.
I like it. I was like, who's gonna go? So I love role playing. So let's just take that we just went through a situation, right? I'm gonna debrief after the whole situation. I'm talking a real one. We're going to debrief, and I want to frame that situation and challenge as something that now I can create a role play scenario on, so that we don't have, I mean, we can't write off that it won't happen again, but we can be prepared in the next time that it happens. Yes. So practicing a surgeon calling, how to de-escalate. Hey, you can even bring somebody in to teach de-escalation skills. I always talk about empowerment. That's been a big thing with me recently, is talking about empowering the staff to practice the scenarios. And then when they realize they have the tools, they can fall back on those. So that, and also cross training. So this can build empathy and make it easier for the communication and to be respectful during tension.
Okay, I like the role play scenarios. I like, because that does put them in a type, almost like a real world scenario. Mm-hmm. And you're using real scenarios that have happened, and after you debrief it, you can see what the different avenues are. So taking that same scenario and then now role playing with the staff. I like that one. Stacey, do you have any that you would implore for like people to be able to take back to their staffs to get them ready for this type of communication?
I do exactly what Rebecca does in critical situations. Then we'll debrief and then we'll role play and learn from it. But if time permits, I actually stay by the staff and I have them execute the communication, standing behind them and coaching and guiding them, so that they hear their voice and not just mine, because their default is to always call us, right? But if we train them and we stand behind them and let them hear their voice, they will be more acceptable to reaching out to the department versus leadership.
Like Angela said, that doing the skits with staff, she loves that. We had so much fun doing that. And that's it. You also make it fun. You make it learning. You make it so that they can actually do it. Sharon Green Golden says, I teach breathe, then be quiet, wait for the question, answer the question, and only remember that they are yelling. It's not personal.
Right.
Yeah, in those pressure situations, that's where we have to keep staff in the mindset of, they're not yelling at you. Like it's not you.
They're upset with the situation, not with you. With the situation.
Because a lot of people do take it personal. Like when people get yelled at, immediately it's a personal situation. You're like, this literally had nothing to do with you personally. So training that way, and like she said, breathe. And then let's get into the actual question. What's the actual question? Answer that question. And then you just got to let the yelling go, because that's what they're doing.
Yep.
Remember, only a fool talks to himself. Again, that's back to what we were saying, right? You can't really be mad and yelling if you're the only one mad and yelling. Like, wait a minute, what is happening here? But again, just tidbits that we took from this. We can do role play practicing. plan and practice emergency scenarios. The coaching, I like that a lot. The coaching of getting them in that real-time scenario. Like, no, you answer the question. I'm gonna be right here, but I need you to go ahead and just work through this scenario yourself so that they do understand it's coming from you. They have that one-on-one rapport. They're building now, as Rebecca said, that trust with the OR. Everybody's building it, not just the leadership, because that's who's always solving it, but we will go up there when called. And I get that part. And I know Sharon said that as a manager, you go handle that and you take care of it. Yes, in that moment, yes, you will get called to the room, you go. But when it's a phone call or something, you should let the staff try to handle it. And we're going to get y'all closing thoughts on this right after this commercial.
Trusted equipment, backed by service. Safer patient outcomes begin with the right equipment and the right partner behind it. That's why we created the MVP program, our commitment to being your most valuable partner in every procedure. When you start using IMP patient protective pads or SteriBump, our sterile surgical bump, you unlock more than just great products. You gain discounted repairs to keep costs down, free loaner equipment to keep you up and running, product discounts to maximize your investment, a 1-year new product warranty, and the exceptional service and support you've come to rely on, delivered by a team that's with you every step of the way. It's more than just a service plan. It's our commitment to stand behind you with best-in-class support, because reliable equipment means safer outcomes for your patients. That's the MVP standard. It's service when you need it, support that's seamless, and protection that's built in so you can focus on what matters most, patient safety. Talk to your IMP representative or visit impmedical.com/MVP to become an MVP today. Because when you invest in IMP, we invest in you.
Do you have your most valuable partner? If not, definitely reach out to IMP and get the information to have them come into your facility and help you with that process. Again, SteriBumps, the placements, the leg holder, they have several products that could change the trajectory of your department. Reach out to your IMP rep today. Rebecca, Stacey, this has been a great, engaging conversation. I love the way you heard that. We had conversation. So that was what the whole point of this was, is how do we get people to communicate together, communicate in a calm tone, and how can they do that under pressure? Rebecca, for the family listening, what is your last thoughts on how to improve that communication under pressure in sterile processing?
So I'm going to pull out a quote. So I'm not sure if anybody knows Churchill. I have this quote on my email right now. So success is not final, failure is not fatal, and it is the courage to continue that counts. So why I'm saying that is that SPD communication under pressure is about not being flawless, but really it's about having the courage to speak with clarity, confidence, and professionalism. So no matter what the situation is, stay calm, take a deep breath, and know that even if you make a mistake in how you're leading, it's not the end of the world. We can always correct that. So just have the courage to communicate matters more than perfection.
I'm also learning that you need a notepad and sticky notes. I got you.
That's notepad and sticky notes, y'all.
Stacey, same thing. For somebody dealing with this right now in their departments, they can't get a handle on the communication, and those competing stat priorities are killing them, and the ORs come in breathing down their neck. How can you help them with the communication?
I would tell them to have honest, open communication, whether it's bad or good. They need to hear it on the other end. Also, take that step further and build relationships with the OR.
Yes.
It goes a long way. Usually you could develop to where they will be on your side, regardless of what happens. So building that relationship, and whether you know the answer or not, ask key questions, get the facts, and then know your escalation pathway so that we can help them get the communication out.
again, family, this has been one of those episodes where it's a two-headed coin, right? We have to be on the receiving end to listen. Again, not a plug, but we got to listen to understand what people are saying before we respond, and do real-time investigation on what the issues are before people get into that mindset of just that angriness. And a lot of people said it in the comments. It's not personal. When those phone calls come and the yelling and the screaming, it's not personal. You can't treat it that way, because at the end of the day, we still got a patient on the table. We still got cases to do. And once you get your day thrown off, it can make it for a longer day. Like everybody knows that once that one thing happens, everything else tends to just start going right behind it. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to practice these scenarios. We want to be able to communicate effectively with our teams and have that other departments communicate with us effectively as well. That's where we are going to grow. That's where we will start to have that OR/SPD relationship that everybody tends to want to have, but they say they can't have it. So I have not found one person yet who says that that relationship is the best. Not that it's going to be, because we are doing opposite ends and we're trying to mesh together, but it starts with communication, I think, a lot of times. Family. Rebecca, do you want to? I'll do it for you. Rebecca, you can do it for your run.
Oh, hi, everybody. So I am running a 5K for pediatric cancer research and care for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia on September 28th. My team is Achilles Heels with HEALS. Not asking for you to donate to my personal fundraiser, but please come out, watch the run, donate to the children. Let's get these guys the cures and the support that they need. Thank you.
Again, another great cause. The link is in the comments if you want to definitely donate to that and keep things like that going. Because again, that's the communication that we have as a SPD community. We support each other on all these aspects. And definitely, Rebecca, if I can make it, I'll come out there and watch you run. I'll have you some Gatorade aside when you're done. Got a cup.
He's going to dump the Gatorade.
Just missed or something. But family, we appreciate you for being here. It's been a time to talk. Definitely go take your test. Make sure you get your CE credit, and definitely tune in next week where I ain't gonna tell you got to see, but it's gonna be great. Definitely, Rebecca, I appreciate you. Thank you, Stacey. I appreciate you. Thank you, and family. Until next time, we'll see y'all next week on Time to Talk.
You have to work with other people, and sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes they are in your face. God, I'm talking to myself too, but you still have to work with that person. So you have to lean over the shoulder and see what the result is that you want. You have to be the adult, and you have to let it go, because I can't run a race carrying your bags, my bags, and everybody else's bags.
I'm Dr. Kathy Martin, and I am living proof that with Sharon Combs, Coach Shay, and UCVI leadership, processes, and strategic avenues work.